And welcome to the We Like Sports podcast. This is your host, Ed in Columbus, with my man, Casey. How's it going, Casey?
I'm good. How are you doing, Ed?
Doing real well. Got plenty of topics to go over today. Got the Guardians, got some NBA playoffs, DeAndre Hopkins action in Cleveland, quite possibly. And, but being in Columbus, I have to, not everybody's a big golf fan, but I got to mention the Memorial yesterday. I don't know if you watched it, but had a little playoff action in Dublin, Ohio with Victor Hovland getting the victory. Did you watch any of that, or do you care?
No, I didn't watch it, but I went to one of those a couple years ago. I don't know, probably 7-8 years ago. I went to one of the memorial events down there. It was pretty good. I know it wasn't Masayama was in the top and withdrawn from the tournament, right?
Yes, that is correct. Yes.
Yeah, that's all I saw. I didn't see anything else from it, so you could fill me in on the
playoff. It was great. You had Denny McCarthy, no relation to Kevin McCarthy, Speaker of the House, but he was up on the 18th hole, but he'd collect $3.6 million. But then he chunked one into the rough, and then he bogeyed that hole, and then he went to a playoff with Hovland and had a bad tee shot. He overcorrected, hit it into basically by the bunker, and once again in the rough. Bad spot, left it short of the green. Almost made the putt. It lipped out, and that would have made it go to another playoff hole. But Hovland got the victory, and that guy's really good from Norway. And
correct, yeah.
Fun to see Jack in his element. And there's talk of them moving the Memorial Tournament even closer to Father's Day, maybe 1 week before the U.S. Open coming up. So we'll have to see about that. But I had to throw that in since, I am in Columbus. It's a big deal.
Boots on the ground, yeah.
Boots on the ground and everything. So, yeah. And also, too, I want to say shout out to Peyton, who kind of gave me a crash course into this. So if I make any mistakes or anything, blame yourself. You're not a good teacher. So I just want to throw that one out there.
I second that.
I have to do a little housekeeping because I don't want to get in trouble. But do you need a pre-workout? We Like Sports PC and Titan Nutrition have teamed up. Head over to titannutrition.net, # We Like Sports, and get 10% off your order. Casey, show them the gun. Show them what
there you go.
Look at those suckers right there. So head on over. And so that one's for you, Peyton. I don't want to get in trouble for any housekeeping breaking of rules there. So
correct. Well, you got to talk about the black bookie too. That's the other thing that
we do got to talk about the black bookie, and I'm glad that you mentioned that. We might as well just get that out of the way as well. We want to Snooze You Lose podcast. Uncle Joe, the black bookie, has you set this Sunday with a Snooze You Lose pick. He's always good with that. So head on over to that as well. Thank you, Casey, for that. I think we're good on housekeeping for today. So kind of like we can go in any direction.
Correct. Unless we got more sponsorships I don't know about.
And what's up, my man?
Yeah, just getting ready for softball, but figured I'd pop in for like a half hour.
Okay. All right. Well, good luck. I'm glad you stopped by. And I guess we'll get into our first topic. Since softball, we'll go a little baseball.
There we go.
We'll talk about the Cleveland Guardians. Casey, I know you watched them over the weekend. They headed up to Minneapolis to face the Twins. Wasn't looking good in games 1 and 2, but they salvaged it in 3 and 4. Give us your takes. And I know that a certain pitcher came back. Sticks and stones will break your bones, I guess. And it's talking about Tristan McKenzie. So
correct.
Give us your take.
We got one back, but we lost the other one with Plezak. We just cut. I saw was earlier today, which I'm okay with that. But it's crazy because you watch it, and one game they look completely horrible. The next game they give you hope, and they look horrible again. And then there's some hope the next game, and then the same game it gives you hope, and then it goes down and then back up. So it's so hard to judge because if they're all on, like I think we have a tough team, but there's never a time where we actually have everybody on point. You know what I mean? That's the tricky thing with it. But with the pitching, the positive is getting those young guys up and seeing how good they are. Bieber, I know we offered him a contract in the offseason. He didn't take it. So I think there is a solid chance that we do move on from him because we have the younger talent like we have in the past, And I was telling somebody a few days ago, I'm not too truthfully worried if we did get rid of him because if you look at the past, we've traded all those guys away, but Cliff Lee, right, did well after we traded him. But how many guys did we get rid of and actually succeeded or was better than when we had them? We kind of have their prime years. We get rid of them then, and we do get relatively good guys back in return more times than not. Clevenger, Carrasco, and most recent Bauer. We really haven't. Kluber, after rid of Kluber, there's nothing, and we got Class A back for him, right? And Kluber didn't do anything for Texas. So I don't want to lose Bieber, but I don't think it's the end of the world because I said we have the history of, getting good guys in return.
True. What do you got on that?
Yeah, no, I think it's good. McKenzie coming back was huge. I think that's bigger than. I'd rather have him than Bieber
Coming back
right
strong.
now.
That was the thing. Coming back as strong as he did.
Yeah, right. The problem is, like Casey said, one thing clicks, the other one doesn't, right? So they're going to get all this pitching back, and the question is, can the offense be hot when the pitching's hot? Because the problem is this team is they're a one-run game team. Yeah. They lead the league in 1 or 2 run games,
and that's why Class A has so many saves. Is because
right.
Every game we've won, it's because it's so close. There's never blowouts. Right.
Yeah, I mean, and I know it's just one of those things where if you're close to 500 at the All-Star break, you've got a shot, right? But I think fans are kind of getting sick of we're at or below 500 every All-Star break. Like this team I know they're a second half team. They're always a second half team, but they have so much talent right now that you'd like to see some momentum going towards the All-Star break, because I think this is what happens in the playoffs too, right? You get to this point and then it's like a new season. They get to the playoffs and they don't carry momentum with them. It'd be nice just to see a winning streak, right? Their best seasons they've had at least some type of mid-season
hope. You gave us hope, like that we have a chance of making a run. Yeah,
because you need to be able to make a run in the playoffs
until we get the Yankees
at the end of the season, right? Yeah,
the Yankees are
well, to your point, Drew. I mean, talking about runs. I mean, the Guardians did go 24-6 in the last 30 games last year, and obviously that propelled them over Tampa. But you're right. When Casey's point, when you run into New York, it kind of resets itself. When you know what I'm saying, when you get into the upper echelon teams, like say you play Houston or New York, it's really not going to matter what you did, your previous 30 games. It's how you match up against those teams right then. And basically, you got to be playing your best baseball, and hopefully they're not playing their best baseball sometimes.
Correct.
And that's how you get it done.
And you play your baseball. You don't try to hit home runs.
Here's the thing. You look at, like, I forgot which person in our group sent that meme out of, like, what divisions are good against other divisions. Yeah, it was you. But the AL Central sucks against other divisions. Well, which divisions are the best in baseball? The other divisions.
Correct.
The AL East is arguably the best division in baseball. And then look at the NL East. The Mets aren't even close to the top, but arguably one of the best teams in baseball. They did lose their closer. They have they have a new closer who's arguably just as good as Diaz was last year, but their offense hasn't been clicking. So they have to show that they can have a winning streak against teams that are worth having a streak against. I don't care if you beat the bottom of the barrel teams and go 18-0 against the worst teams in the league. I want to see you go 6-0 against the Yankees, the Orioles, Tampa, or not
even
Tampa.
The Twins.
Yeah,
the Twins even, yeah.
The White Sox. Like, you need to have teams that you're going to have to compete with later on. Show you can beat them during the regular season.
And those divisional games matter more now because there's not as many of them. So when you don't win those early in the season, you can't come back and have 18 more games in the series like we normally do. Now we're not beating up the bad teams like we have been.
Yeah, 13 games compared to 19 because we're playing everybody in Major League Baseball. But, not moving on to like the roster and what we've been seeing with some of the moves that the Guardians have been making. Do you like the fact that, maybe Ahmed Rosario isn't playing and Arias is? Do you like some of the moves that Tito's making? I think it's about long overdue. And I know Tito's a kind of guy where, he's a veteran kind of guy and wants to get his veterans to stay in the lineup. But I like some of the moves that he's making with some of the young players and getting them in there. And I think moving forward, I think that Guardians win the division not because of Ahmed Rosario. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, Arias is looking tough too. I mean,
and that's what I wanted to get to.
He's a ball player.
Yeah, and now I see why, because we didn't see it before the start of the season because he didn't play that much. He didn't have consistent playing time, right? So now he's playing consistently. You see he can play 30, play right field, play first base. He could step in wherever it's needed. And now Brennan is another one. When we dropped down Gonzalez a few months ago, last month, I think, we kept Brennan. I was skeptical because I was like, Gonzalez has done something at least in the majors. Brennan hasn't done much. But so recently he's been pretty hot, which I was surprised about.
I'd rather have teams test this stuff out in May, June, July than try and find like your final roster spot person in September.
Correct.
Because a lot of teams will do that right before they make their final roster cuts for the playoffs. They'll start bringing up some of these young guys, whether it be a second catcher, whether it be a base runner, like a base stealing specialist, or some random relief pitcher that is good in the minors, that they're like, hey, what if we happen to need to go on short rest and we need that last guy? I'd rather have a team test that out now than test it out at the end of the year when you're probably in a divisional race. Right now, I mean, yes, a win in June is just as good as a win in September, but figure it out now, because if you do have a diamond in the rough player, get them major league experience now. Like, Arias is going to be good.
Yep.
If he continues to be good, he'll be a good utility player, which is exactly what they'll be looking for in September anyways.
Yep.
They'll know what they have. So
and you can plug him in.
Winning.
Exactly. You can plug him in when you know that it's not, you have to worry then, because he has the experience of being on the team the whole year. Instead, like I said, just having a guy like, if we bring up Bo Naylor in September, right? I don't know if he's going to be that hot just because he hasn't been in the league, as much as some other players have been. So that's the other catch with it. Because we tweeted about Bo Naylor a few days ago. It was yesterday, maybe today, but hitting that home run. Yeah. What do you think, Ed? Do you think that we should bring him up, or what do you?
I think we should, and here's why. And I think the fact with Arias is the same thing. Getting them at major league at bats will help in the postseason. Say you need a pinch hitter. The more at bats that you get now, the more comfortable they are with major league hitting. And, he's obviously the future of the Guardians when it comes to the catching position.
We thought Mejia was, though. We did think Mejia was.
We did, but I don't know. He's a nailer, and as we know, like his brother, who's a dog. I just think that even if he struggles, look at him. He went back down to Columbus, and he could have been upset about it, but he's just mashing the cover off the baseball, and he doesn't seem like a kind of guy. He's still, what is he, 19 or something like that? Very, very young.
Look.
It's like either 19 or 20, and so I think the fact that he would.
He was born in 2000, so.
Wow.
He's 22.
Okay. Well, okay. So he's a little bit older than I thought, but at the same time,
in the MLB,
think,
it's young.
Yeah. Especially for that position, catching position. So I know I'm all for getting a major league at bats. It's the weather's heated up, and obviously, what more can he prove in Columbus right now? He's obviously doing it all down here.
Well, yeah, it's not like Gallagher's Fry or or putting up numbers that tell us to keep him down. It's not like we're taking solid at bats away from somebody.
And even if he's not good, we've had a hole in the 9 spot all year, anyways. We're used to playing around it. So what more? At least he's catching major league pitchers at that point, getting accustomed to the staff. And
plus those dudes, he pitched with them. He caught for them in the minors. Those young guys are moving up now. Like he played with them down there. So he has the experience of a lot of those young guys that are coming up that we have playing, that he has played with and caught and called games for.
I guess what it comes down to is I'm all for when a player, I don't care how old they are, if they're ready, they're ready. And I think that there's enough Guardian leadership, especially with Tito running the helm of the ship, that he'll be fine. Bring him up.
You got Jimenez and Nino. It's strong.
Baseball notoriously keeps players down for too long.
They do.
It's just I think I wrote about it before the season started. Like, it takes the average first round pick like 7 years to crack the majors. That's insane. But like Ed's saying, get major league at bats. You can't simulate that anywhere else. You go watch any like decent MLB hitter. They go down to AAA and they're hitting 400 with 30 home runs in 40 games, right? They just mash AAA pitching. That's not a guy who does that in the MLB, because the pitching is so different. You have to have that experience somewhere. And spring training, where they bring up all these hot prospects, isn't enough at bats against your own guys.
When we're number 85, because there's so many guys on the team.
Another aspect is being comfortable. Say Bo Naylor, is catching at Yankee Stadium or wherever, or in Fenway. Come September, October. Isn't it better to have him? He's already caught there before, or an outfielder. He's already knows that the specifications of the light of the outfield.
Well, it's different too. It's you're playing in Columbus, right? Ed's going to watch Bo Naylor play in Columbus, right? And you got the next, if they go to the playoffs, right? They pull him up. He's playing in New York, right? Exactly. In New York Stadium. So it's a big difference of hitting good in Columbus than it is in New York.
And just the Cleveland. Difference of acclimating to being in a pro stadium. You see this in almost every sport, maybe other than football, right? Like the difference between a minor league facility, like what weight training you have available, what your locker room has, what your training staff has, going to the major league level, just walking into that your own facility is just mind-boggling. Like it takes some time just to acclimate yourself to, wow, I'm not playing in front of 3,000 fans in a rinky-dink stadium in Columbus. I'm playing in Yankee Stadium.
Exactly.
I wanted to go now to touch base and go a little bit around the horn for Major League Baseball. Is there any stories right now or any player or anything that you guys want to talk about, that's kind of caught your eye at this point in the season right now? Because I mean, the Texas Rangers right now.
I was going to tell you, when I pulled the standing up, I was thinking the Rangers, the AL West was it surprised me because I follow the Guardians, I follow baseball, and I'm not, watching all the standings or anything. The AL West is interesting because the Rangers being 38-20 is impressive, and then the Athletics being 12-49 is also impressive because of how poor you could be to have 12 wins that far into the season and have a 197 win percentage is kind of crazy. Like a 19% winning percentage.
You would think Hugh Jackson's their manager.
Yeah, like it's crazy.
Yeah, right?
You look at the rest of the AL West though, and the Astros are tough. The Angels, have the players, and the Mariners have some players too. So it's for the Rangers to be where they're at in the standings there is pretty impressive because
what's the run differential? And it's one thing, to compete with Houston, and obviously you gotta hit the ball, and they're scoring a lot of runs this year. Because I don't really know how strong Texas's starting pitching is. I don't obviously not as strong as some other teams, but they are just killing the baseball right now.
Well, in Simeons, I know he's doing pretty well so far. Yeah, I was gonna say he's hitting pretty well. They got a former Guardian on their team, Sandy Leone.
Oh, he's on
the team. But like if you pull up their roster though, it's not like they have any huge names. It's not like no one stands out to me. Adolis Garcia is like the biggest name. Him, Corey Seager, because they're paying him $30 million a year. Yeah. And then Lowe and Mitch Garver are really only got and I don't think casual fans know who those players even are. For them to be where they're at in the standings.
Yeah.
And then
the
also,
thing you see is the National League is better than the American League, I would say, looking at standing wise.
Well, I think out west too,
and even the teams that aren't playing that well, like the National League has some teams. Like I mentioned the Mets earlier. There's some teams that are kind of in the middle of the standings right now that could pop off at any time, and you'll be like, "Yeah, I saw that coming." But Wander Franco's my story of the year still. That guy, he came up like prospect sensation last year. Mm-hmm. He's just as good. He's as advertised. Maybe arguably the reason, his team is even remotely successful. And he's only 22. Yeah. And he's going to be good for a long time. And he's fun to watch. I mean, he's got a little less of the ego of Tatis, but like basically the same skill set.
Well, and it's funny because I went to watch the Rays play the Guardians last year when they were down here. And I didn't realize that they had that many former Guardians either. They have Mejia, they had Diaz, they have Harold Ramirez. I don't know if you guys remember him playing for us for that 1 year.
No.
We got him from the Marlins. They have a good amount of guys. They had Kluber last year as well. Yeah. A lot of the guys they had were former players with us that that we just got rid of. We didn't use, and we just got rid of them.
Yeah, I saw an article today just talking about storylines. It's like how they're talking about the big pay disparity between the Athletics and the Mets and all that stuff. And I guess right now, if you take the top 10 teams, like half of them are small market teams, half of them are big market teams. And if you look at the bottom of the standings, it's almost the same. So
that's what I was pulling up on Sport Track right now to see.
Money is not dictating who's at the top. I mean, over the long haul, teams with the high, in the top half of payrolls tend to be more successful, but we're not really seeing that this year. And you're looking at it with the Rangers, who's their big star? I mean, you said Corey Seager, $30 million.
Because it's just $30 million. Yeah.
Where's everybody else? I mean, you don't see a massive stack of contracts there. But, you look at some of these other squads where they're spending a boatload of money and they're kind of just middle of the pack. Well, it's kind of fun to watch.
I pulled up the Rangers right now. The crazy thing about it is they have a pretty high payroll. They're They're at. Let me see the exact
Who are
number.
they paying?
I know this is it's what's gonna blow your mind because I just checked that. So they're number 9. They're above league average, number 9.
What?
But they're paying Seager 35, Simeon's 26,
Okay.
Martin Perez, who's a starting pitcher, who's 32, 20. Nathan Eovaldi, who's 33, 16. John Gray, who's 31, 15. Andrew Heaney, who's 32, 12,000 or 12 million. I mean, and everyone else is like below.
So
6.
they're paying a bunch of like 30 to 35 year olds
all,
more than
all their starting pitchers.
more than
yes.
the Guardians are paying their entire team.
Correct. Yeah. So
Why? I'm 43.
Yes.
I'm 43. Casey, do you think they'll give me $50 million a year?
It's insane.
I think it just goes up the older you get.
Yeah, the older you get.
I think you're at like 60 maybe.
Okay, you're my agent, Drew. You're my agent.
I got you.
Because Seager's 29. You know, he's 29 and he makes up 18% of that team's payroll.
Him and
Simeon's
Simeon
32.
Him and Simeon make sense. I mean, at least from like the contract standpoint. But 32-year-old starting pitchers who are kind of middle of the road starting pitchers, I'm shocked they have the payroll they do. I'm shocked they do.
I agree with you. And then I just pulled up the A's who are last. Their highest paid player is $6 million. It's Trevor May, who's 33. Aledmys Diaz, 32 at 6.5. Jace Peterson is their third highest, and Tony Kemp is their fourth.
Nice. There we go.
So, yeah.
I think the possum that's in the radio booth with them actually gets paid more than some of their players.
I never even heard of some of these guys. And almost this entire team. Looking at these guys, I don't know any of them.
Well, I got a quiz for you guys. Maybe you guys know this. Maybe you haven't seen it. But speaking of overpaying and not getting the performance, Francisco Lindor, I won't call him Frankie. I won't be lazy. But right now, within plus or minus 10 points between you and Drew, Casey, what is Francisco Lindor batting right now? What's his batting average? Because I know what it is, but I'm asking you guys. What do you think it is?
I'll say 240.
I was going to say he was like 220.
You would be right, Drew. It's 213.
Okay. All right.
I thought 240 was good for him too. He's getting paid 33 million this year. So
yeah, so that's there's plenty of but to Drew's point, the Mets. I mean, they're one of those teams that are in the middle, but they could go on a hot streak and get out of where they're at. I mean,
that's true because they have the players and the players they have experience
too.
Yeah. I mean, they have the experience.
Yeah, and Lindor, like, he's been good since he's been with the Mets. I mean, somebody batting 220 in June, he could easily be batting 280 in August. So it's not like he can't get that number up.
Yeah, but has he done anything in the playoffs though?
He started the season bad. I think his average has gone up in like the past 3-4 weeks. He was bad.
I mean, 213. I'm looking at that. I'm thinking for the money. So
this is we got to go back to the Rangers real fast. Their injured list, right? Here's some more money to make sense why it's so expensive. They've got DeGrom, who's making 37.
Right. Okay.
They've got Brad Miller, who's making 5. And they got Jake Odorizzi, who's making 12.5.
So there's $50 million right there.
Wow. And Odorizzi is 33, and he is on a 60 ADL. So all those pitchers they're paying, they're starting 5 on paper for the year are all over 30, and they're all making. That's the huge over 10 million, at least 10 to 20 million. They're all making.
Yeah.
Martin Perez, I haven't even heard. I really don't even know who he even that big of a name.
He's
10 years he's played.
He's got to have the best agent in baseball.
I'm telling you, it's crazy. I don't even, like I said, he doesn't really, I don't think a casual fan knows who Martin Perez is. I don't even.
If he walked into my house right now, I'd have no idea who he was.
This is the exact reason. I can tell you why. Last year, he had a 2.89 ERA and 200 innings pitched. Before that, his lowest ERA was 4.4. So he had one good year last year. He probably got paid for it because his WAR last year was 5.
He knows how to work. He knows how to work in a contract year.
Yeah, he had a big season last year.
Yeah,
169 Ks and 196 innings pitched, and I said a 5.17 WAR is pretty high for that season.
That's pretty damn good.
That's the reason he got that. Probably got paid this offseason.
I like putting people on the spot, and since I'm kind of running the show, thank you, Peyton. I just want to give
Peyton Vince Jr.
Peyton Vince, who's not here. He's on assignment right now.
2.0.
He's on assignment. Yeah.
But I want to do this instead of just saying, "Oh, who's going to do this? Who's going to do that?" I like to do this. Right now, who's winning the AL East? Who's winning the Central? Who's winning the West? And likewise with the National League. We'll just do it that way, and we'll just take it from there. At this point, you've seen what you saw so far. Who's winning the AL East?
It's hard not to say the Rays, man. I don't, these many games in, it's hard not. I mean, they're 4 games ahead of the Orioles, 6 ahead of the Yankees, 8.5 the Blue Jays, Red Sox 11. any of those teams could get hot, and the Rays could
Yeah.
cool off. It is possible. I do see it, but because I mean, in history, Yankees and Red Sox, but I think the Rays will hang on.
I agree with that. I'm trying to see if we can build a consensus here.
I'm torn between the Rays and the Yankees because it's just the Yankees lineup is and like their whole roster is good. I mean, they're within striking distance, and if they stay that way, end of the year it could be close. But like, I don't know why the Rays would cool off.
Okay, fair enough.
Barring
it's enough. It's a big sample size. Yeah, it's a big sample size. It's not like they started the season and they were hot. They're still 42-19,
and they're still good. So I don't.
Drew, I got you down. I got you down for the Rays. Let's move to the Central. I'm gonna say the Guardians win the Central.
That's the homer pick, right?
Yeah, correct. I wish we had someone that wasn't, I wish there was like a non-bias someone that could voice this, but
I mean, like the Twins.
Well, who wins it then? I'm curious then if it's not.
It's tight though. Like looking at it, it's like I have it in front of me. The Twins are 3.5 games ahead of us, and the Tigers and the White Sox are 5.5.
Tigers aren't winning.
I know, I agree. Yeah, but the White Sox.
If it's not the Guardians, I think it's the Twins.
Okay, that's fair.
It just depends who gets on that hot streak.
Yeah.
Who gets on that rolling and strings together 10 wins, in a row and pulls away and gets the momentum. And it's even like I said before, you sweep one of the AL Central teams, like I said, the Guardians sweep the Twins, it could move the momentum. Or
I need an answer, Casey. I need an answer.
I don't know, man. I don't know, man. I'll say the Guardians because
so two Guardians, one Twins
because of the history. Because
I'll have to be the contrarian, the non-Ohio guy.
We're going out
west.
It's
just because of the history. I'm saying because they have the last few years they have done. The Twins haven't. The Twins have let them down. So
this will be a fun one. The AL West. I mean, obviously it's fun with Texas, but I still got to go with Houston right now. I want Texas, I think, because it'd be a fun story, but I'd have to go with the Astros right now. They're only 3.5 back, I think.
Yeah, that's it. You don't think the Mariners or Angels got a chance? They're 9.5 back, but it's
no, they're not.
I think
definitely not the A's. The A's are not coming back.
The Mariners have a better chance.
27.5 games back.
Honestly, the Angels should have the better chance, but for some reason they just suck. They're just not good. They have the two of the arguably greatest players of our generation and can't win anything. But if you were going to go sleeper pick, I'd go with Seattle. The non-Rangers, Houston track. I think Seattle's got the best chance, but I would go the Rangers. I mean, now, run differential. I'm a big point differential person. So, that includes your pitching and your hitting. I mean, they're that far ahead. They'd have to really cool off for me not to give it to them right now, but I think that's another one where we'll find out. We'll find out if I'm right.
Correct. Yes.
Let's move over quickly. We'll move over to the senior circuit, AL or NL East. I'm going to go with the Braves. I think they got a 3.5 game lead. I'm going to go with the Braves.
Oh, that 3.5 game over the Marlins. The Marlins, I don't think are. That's a surprise. You don't think the Phillies? Phillies could. They're only. They're 8 back, but you don't think they could get going because they have.
They're going to have to make a move. I think that they need to make a move at the deadline.
I think they get healthy, and I think the Mets actually end up winning the division.
Ooh.
I say Braves.
Okay, all right. I like it. I think you're right. I think it's Braves Mets. I think it's kind of one of the.
I'm gonna sleep on the Phillies though. I said there's a chance. I think if they,
I just despise Philadelphia. I've said it enough times. I can't say Philadelphia is going to win anything ever.
Moving to the Central. Well, we got that's pretty tight. Milwaukee with a half.
This is a strange one too. This is a strange division.
Yeah, with Cincinnati. I mean, St. Louis.
The Cardinals,
is in the bottom of in the basement.
And if you looked at the Pirates and the Reds blow, and the fact that
they do.
They're on paper too, they're not any good. But I don't know.
I'm gonna go Milwaukee.
I was gonna say Milwaukee too.
Milwaukee.
I think their top end starting pitching is just that good.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think the AL Central and the NL Central, are in too far apart when it comes to caliber of teams in it.
Yeah.
And then out west, I'm going to go Dodgers because they'll make a move. Their payroll's too big for them to lose, I think.
Yeah, the Diamondbacks, I can't see them.
Yeah.
I can't see them holding on.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Dodgers are the easy pick there.
But you think the Giants or Padres, the other team is because the Rockies, I don't think they got it. But the Padres or the Giants.
I don't know that the Giants can hold off the Dodgers either. I mean, they just have so much talent.
What about the team that Trevor Bauer is on? You think they're going to make a run in the playoffs?
I think so.
The
I think
Shanghai Sharks or whatever.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
He's trying to recruit people to say how great it is out there, right?
Exactly. Yeah, he's a celebrity, but the biggest celebrity out there right now. But
Right.
to go back to the Guardians real fast. Do you think that so like we're 8 games out of the wild card? I don't think there's if we don't win the division, we're not in.
Correct.
Because the AL East, I think, is going to hog all those.
I agree.
Those spots in the wild card, because right now that's how it is looking right now in the Astros. But I think if we don't win the Central, we're not making it to the playoffs. I can't see us winning enough. I was the Twins pulling away that far that we're in second and we're enough to win the wild card.
I agree, 100%.
It's division title or bust for the Guardians. I totally agree with that.
But, and that goes down to the records of divisions against the outside divisions. Like the AL Central is just so bad that these other divisions are just raking on. One, they're dominating the Central is kind of what it comes down to, is they're just racking up losses against these other divisions. So, yeah, unless something drastically changes in these other divisions, it's title or bust.
Well, I think we've done a great job with Major League Baseball. We went around the horn. We did all that, but we got to talk a little basketball, a little NBA Finals. Hopefully you guys are watching. I wonder if the rest of America's watching besides Denver and South Beach, because obviously the NBA wanted it to be the Celtics and the Lakers.
Yeah, they did.
I wonder what the viewership is compared this year so far in these 2 games compared to the last year's game 1 and game 2. I'm curious to see, because who was in it last year? The Warriors and
Celtics.
Who did they beat? The Celtics.
Yeah.
So that definitely would have had more viewers than with Curry and the Celtics.
And just
what
markets themselves.
What are you guys' thoughts? I mean, obviously, Miami came back from a 15-point deficit yesterday to even the series at 1-1. I watched the first game, like all of it, and I didn't think Denver played that well, and they still won by double digits. And then last night, I saw that they were up, and I fell asleep. I'm not going to lie, Mold.
It's that age is catching up to him.
Age is catching up to me. I didn't really see the comeback. I read about it and everything, and I just wanted you guys' thoughts of, does this continue? Was it just Denver falling asleep at the wheel? If they play their brand of basketball, is it too much for Miami? We'll start with you, Drew. What do you think?
I think if Denver plays their brand of basketball and plays it well, they're the toughest team to beat in the NBA. And I thought that going into the playoffs. I mean, look, they have, I think, the best player in the league right now. He single-handedly, in game 1, they were down by whatever in the third quarter, and he goes on a tear, and immediately they're up. And, it's rare to see someone who can pass that well, score that well, and do it from the post. It's him and Embiid, I think, are the best 2 players in the league. Jimmy Butler, playoff Jimmy is great to watch. He's fun to watch, but I don't see the Heat having anyone who can match Jokic.
Yes, I agree with you. That's the big thing. And if you look at the way the rosters are made, right? If you look at the Nuggets, let's say top 8, top 9 players who are playing consistently in the games, you've heard of them all. Bruce Brown, KCP, the bench, like Porter, Gordon, etc. You've heard of a solid amount of those players. You take a look at the Heat. I will be very honest with you, and I love basketball. I did not know who Max Strus was. Only reason I knew him is because he killed the Cavs one game. I know he went for like 20 or 30.
It's always the no-name players that kill the Cavs.
Yep,
that's why I know him, right? And Gabe Vincent, I didn't know who he was until even the playoffs. And then you got Martin. He was shit before, really now. Mm-hmm. So like the consistency, right? So you look at it, Zeller should not be getting minutes in the finals. Like Cody Zeller, the fact that he is.
Yeah, but he is, because
it blows my mind. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. It blows my mind that he's even in the league and on a finals team.
I heard we had a Kevin Love spotting last night. Is that true?
And he was plus. They were +9, I think, or something in the time he was in. So he was a big contributor to that game. So I think it's going to be the Nuggets just because of they have the players that are strong, and it's not a fluke. Like when the Magic player, the Heat players go off, it's kind of like, wow, like that's great. Like Vincent last night at 23. That's not the normal, right? That's not the usual. Right. And then Duncan Robinson, and he didn't do anything. Yeah. Like he's hot or cold. If he's not hitting the shots, he's nothing. So it's whereas the other guys, again, like I said, on the Nuggets, they're not just one dimensional. And they play team basketball. So if one guy's not on, it's okay. They have the guy that backs up. And then Bam, I mean, he's it depends how you look at it, right? Some people say he's doing great. Some people say he's doing bad. He's the only reason why they're in the games. But The one game he had 25 on 26 shots. He had 25 points on 26 shots. That's
not great.
Yeah, you're giving him 26 shots. I mean, I'm sure that they're thrilled from the Nuggets perspective of it, right?
Let him shoot all day.
Well,
correct.
And the thing people forget is that Jokic makes the top 7 other than him in that top 8. He makes every single one of those players better.
Correct.
Like I don't know that anybody on the Heat has the ability to make the other guys that much better. Like, you can't defend Jokic without allowing one of his other talented, like another part of that supporting cast to then drop 20 points, because you can't drop someone down to cover him because he might be the best passer in the league.
Drew, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I did see the clip of Ramona Shelburne asking Heat coach Eric Spoelstra about whether you make him a passer or a scorer, and he basically kind of said, well, to the casual out there, he's too good of a player to worry about what you're trying to do to him. When you just got to play your game. And I did like what Spoelstra said. I'm not sure I like the way that he said it. I thought that was kind of
you're a big Ramona fan, is that why?
I'm not necessarily. I just thought that she asked the question because it a lot of maybe casual talk in the sportscasters world, and I get that, but she has to ask the question.
It's surprising he responded that way after a W. Like, it wasn't like they lost, like they won. It's like
he's still afraid of them after they won. He's like,
that's what was the
do you make him a scorer or a passer? Well, he could beat us both ways.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It was interesting. That was the interesting part of it. If you would have shown me that clip, and I would have said that was game 1. That was after game 1. He said that.
That was after. That was after. Or at the end of the third quarter in game 1. Like, I don't really know what to do about this guy.
Correct. That was the I did pull up. I found a stat here from the game 1 of the last 4 finals, the viewership in millions, right?
Okay.
So in 2020, which was the COVID year, it was Lakers Heat. Game 1 had 5.31 million.
Okay.
Which that was the lowest one. 2021 Bucks and Suns, 6.41. Right. 2022 Warriors Celtics, 8.13. And the Nuggets and Heat was 7.64.
Wow, okay.
So that one surprisingly had more than Lakers, Heat, Bucks, Suns. And like I said, I wouldn't think that because, like you said, there really no, big, huge markets, in the Heat. But still, no one's turning in to watch the Heat without, Dwayne Wade, LeBron, Shaq, those kind of things.
You know what I found funny too? I see a lot of talk on this on Twitter and everything. Is like we all see the banners down there, coming up. We got on our show and everything, but they're talking about the way that ABC and ESPN is putting, Nuggets Heat. Like, you can barely even tell it's the finals. The way that they got
the bottom of the screen is.
The way the bottom of the screen was. I thought that was kind of, from a marketing standpoint. One thing about selling anything, and sometimes it's not what you sell, it's how you sell it. And, I find it very funny that, as those people get paid millions and millions of dollars to put on these broadcasts, that they would, not have such elementary graphics.
Correct.
I mean,
and you look at the Cavs. When the Cavs played, like granted it was because we were Cavs fans, but it felt like it was the finals. The presentation, the watching it, every time it came out from commercial, you knew it was a big game. Whereas look at these, like you said, it's not just like a Saturday night primetime game. What's the difference,
Let's be honest. The ESPN promotes what they like to promote and then ignores everything else. There was a game 7 NHL playoff game that was being played, and they set it for like 10 p.m.
Correct.
Because there was an MLB Tonight game, a regular season game in the middle of May and June got a game 7 bumped because the ESPN doesn't care about the NHL, and they're doing the same thing. They don't care about the Nuggets or the Heat.
TNT is trying to make hockey. I feel like something bigger now because they have the NHL and TNT. I did actually watch the last game with.
We'll bounce. I'm glad you said we'll bounce the NHL real quick because
Drew's a big.
What are your thoughts of the Stanley Cup?
I watched the last game with the Knights and the Panthers. Right, I watched it and it was close. They came back and was it 4-2?
Yeah,
I think because they pulled the empty net and they scored their 5-2 or something like that, and they scored a goal towards the end. But I think that the Knights are going to win. I mean, I don't know hockey at all. I know 2 players. I know Eichel and Stone. I know those are the 2 guys I know from the Knights.
Those are good to know.
But, those are the 2 guys I know. But like I said, I think that they have the history. The Panthers, to me, you would know better than me, Drew, but I didn't really know much of them, and I live in Florida before this season, right? I didn't.
Because
I
it's
don't
all
know if
Lightning.
they're.
If you're in
Exactly.
Florida, it's all about the Lightning because they went
Oh,
to
believe me, correct.
They went to 3 straight Stanley Cup finals.
But
Yes,
before
everybody.
they
Yes.
did, Drew, there was
If
a
you
team
go to
called
Target,
the
it's
Columbus Blue
all
Jackets.
Lightning.
Yeah.
Columbus Blue Jackets.
Well, yeah, no, Columbus swept Tampa.
Yep.
When they had the before the Bruins had the record.
Yeah, for the President's Cup and all the points.
And then in the same year, the Cleveland Monsters, the Blue Jackets AHL affiliate, also swept Syracuse, who had the AHL record for most points in a season. They did it in the same year. So both Columbus affiliates beat both Tampa affiliates in the same year when they were the bottom seed.
Drew will be appearing at trivia later at B-Dubs.
Yeah. But yeah, I actually think Florida could win this. I mean, they beat Boston, which was enough for me.
Correct. I was gonna say Boston. Yeah, that's they had the best, one of the best years, right? In the history, like the last however many years of.
It's the single greatest in the history of the NHL.
Well, but then they said it was because at the tie, I guess the rules changed, and that was
get more points for ties. You get a point for a tie now, or for an overtime loss. But
it's something
you used to get one for a tie. So it's not that different. The difference is if you win in overtime, you still get full credit for a win.
Oh.
When it was a tie,
I have no idea how that all works, to be honest. The hockey standings.
It's kind of a weird change. Like back in the day, they allowed ties. There wasn't overtime. So when it was a tie, both teams would get 1 point because every game's worth 2 if you win.
Why doesn't it just do it like normal wins and losses? Why does hockey have like the point system?
It's just the way it's always gone. I mean, it's just I actually kind of like it too, because if you go to overtime, you still get a point towards the standings. If you win in overtime, you get a second point. So some people say that makes the game worth 3 points, but technically it doesn't change anything because you were getting 1 for the tie anyways. But if you win, you still should get something for winning. But yeah, I love the NHL playoffs. I think it's cool that it's the Knights in Florida because I don't think at the beginning of this playoffs.
You're anti-Canada, I heard.
As long as Canada's not winning, it's pretty.
He's proud of being American, right?
Yeah. I mean,
brother.
Every year Canada doesn't win the cup is more fun for me.
It's been 30 years. 30 years.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
How many teams are in Canada?
6.
Montreal, Toronto, Is Winnipeg still a team?
Yep. Montreal, Toronto, Winnipeg,
Jets,
Calgary, Ottawa, and
Edmonton.
So 6.
Mm-hmm.
If you asked me to name all the NHL, there's no way in hell I could do that. If I can name all the NHL teams, there's no shot.
I got a question for you guys.
Hard.
Is there a better chance? But okay, see, Drew, better chance that both South Florida teams win the title, split 1-1, either the Heat or the Panthers win. What doesn't matter which one, or go 0-2.
Split 1-1 because I think Florida in the NHL is good enough that you can't count them out against the Knights. But I think the Heat are going to get overall. I think the Nuggets win the NBA Finals.
Okay.
I'm
gonna say 0-2.
It sounds like Ed's gonna put a parlay in on draft.
Yeah, I might
do it. Put your money where your mouth is.
Oh, ain't much money, but I got a mouth on me. I tell you that.
There you go.
Who's the favorite? And is it the
it's
Panthers
Vegas.
or the Knights?
Vegas.
It's Vegas. It's the Knights.
Yeah.
No.
So then, if you put money on the Heat and the Panthers, that's the biggest pay that you would get.
That'd be pretty good.
Curious what it would be, but I mean, I'd just say 1-1 just because then it gives me the most options. If the Panthers win and then the Heat lose or vice versa, like it gives me the most the best odds, I would say, if I said 1-1.
I don't think it's going to be 2-0 because I don't think the Heat win. So it's either going to be 1-1 or 0-2. So
I put some money on the Heat before the playoffs start, before the series, because the odds were like plus 350. So I was like,
that's why
I like both
plus
teams.
350.
Correct, but I don't want to put money on a plus, minus 450.
No.
So for the fun of it,
In that last segment, I went from the hardwood to the ice, which I wasn't even supposed to go to the ice. But we're going to transition to the gridiron here. We're going to talk a little football. DeAndre Hopkins, is he going to be a Cleveland Brown?
No.
No.
Why is that?
Would you like him to be?
Yes.
That's why this conversation is happening.
Because I would like him to be. It's so hard, like, I was reading stuff. We just got Elijah Moore, right? He blows statistically. I don't think he's bad. I think he's good. I think he's just in a bad, opportunities.
He was in a shitty system with the Jets. Who were his
Correct.
quarterbacks?
Exactly. And if you look at him in college, didn't A.J. Brown, I think, go to Ole Miss? And I think he had better stats than A.J. Brown at Ole Miss, right after, because he was right after him. So he's quick. He could go down the field and hit the long ball that everyone loves. Deshaun Watson's got a cannon. Because that's in Marquise Goodwin, right? I don't know if you saw the clip.
We saw the video porn. We saw that porn.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And then Goodwin said, like, I never had a guy that could, I'm running as quick as I could, and he's throwing it past where I'm at. Like, I have to hustle to get that ball. I'm not slowing down to get underneath it, right? So I think Goodwin, he might have, some big plays this year. I'm still surprised that we do have Ed's favorite player, Anthony Schwartz. I am shocked that we still have him. But because I thought Goodwin was replacing him, but it's hard to say because I like Cooper a lot for what we got paid for him and got him. I like him.
Yeah.
I like Peoples-Jones a lot. I like Moore. I like that we have, like I said, the flexibility of having Goodwin or having somebody else that, isn't a huge name that could step up. And if we had Hopkins, we don't like the Browns. We should not be a big passing team. Should be run the ball at Chubb, run the ball and get passing if we have to. Watson throws 25 times a game, not throwing 45 to 50 times a game. But we're paying Watson so much money now. We have to use him more. But if we win, we win. You know what I mean? But we're not running sets where we have 4 wide receivers every play. We're rarely running when we have more than 2 or 3 because we have those tight ends, Njoku as well, and Harrison Bryant. So and we signed somebody. Then we just signed another tight end that isn't. I don't know who his name was, but he's not a bad player. I forgot who it was.
Yeah, he'll be a red zone threat. Yeah, they were talking about him today. What is his name?
He's not bad as a third string tight end to fill in.
Well, I thought the same thing though when the Giants signed Kyle Rudolph, and he caught one pass. So
I think I'm in fantasy when he did that correct. Yeah.
Yeah, right. But I don't think Hopkins ends up with Cleveland because I just don't think Cleveland has much to offer him. I think it's going to be more on his decision than the Browns. The Browns can offer him, a good deal. You'll be the number 1 guy, the whole deal. But there's better systems for him.
Correct. And he needs to have a big year for free agency. He's going to sign a 1-year deal, so he's not going to sign with the Browns. Because how many receivers had a good year with the Browns that put up statistically huge stats that would get signed the year after?
And the Browns need to avoid. And by the way, the Giants completely won the Odell Beckham trade because they didn't have to deal with Odell for however many years. And do you really want another Odell scenario where you bring in this big name receiver who really hasn't been him for the last year-ish, year and a half, and now
and the PED suspension. He had the suspension too last year.
Yeah, so he's not playing full seasons. He had an injury the year before, didn't he? That he was out for a short period.
I think so. So yeah, I agree, and it's again like not just this year. It's next year too. If we got him, would you rather keep Cooper or Hopkins, right? If we had them both, you're not keeping both, right?
Well, here's what they're saying. Here's what they're saying. Andrew Barry's cleared some cap space. The Browns have like $15 million, for this year. They could offer him basically about $15 million right now. And who's to say there isn't more that they cut? But here's the thing: say you sign him to a 2 or 3 year deal, realizing that DPJ. You trade him because you're not going to want to pay him, and then lose Amari Cooper, and then you'd have Hopkins, Elijah Moore. And you know what I'm saying? And then you'd have Tillman. They drafted Tillman.
I was about to say that I pulled up our depth chart to see the other tight end I was talking was Jordan Akins from
Akins. That's it. Yep.
From the Texans. So he has history with Watson as well.
Yep.
But you look at the receiving. Well, before that, the worry I have is our backup running back because we have Chubb. Ford didn't look bad, but he didn't get a lot of playing time. Behind him is Demetric Felton. I don't know.
He could be all right. He could be okay.
Yeah. We'll see. And then John Kelly Jr. I don't even know who that is. But receiver-wise, right, you got as the top 3 right now, it's Cooper, Moore, Peoples-Jones. The backups to them are Cedric Tillman, who we just drafted, Marquise Goodwin, David Bell. And then you got Schwartz, Jakeem Grant, no names, right? So you're looking at if you signed Hopkins, you just drafted Tillman this year. He's not getting any playing time. If you had Hopkins, because you're pushing him down even more, and he's going to be our 5 receiver, and Goodwin, who we just signed, will be our 6. But you're going to slot him in those, those big streaks down the field, those kind of end around type plays too, to get the ball in his hand because he's dynamic. We tried with Schwartz, so it's tough. And David Bell, we drafted, was it 3rd round maybe last year, 2 years ago? It was a relatively high
pick.
So for us, receiver wise, so it's tough because you don't know what Tillman's going to have, what Bell's going to have, and if you got him, it's going to make it crowded. And then the more crowded you have the room, the more upset players are going to be not getting the ball because you only got one ball to go around, and you have, like I said, Njoku, who's had problems in the past, not getting the ball. So when you have too many mouths to feed, Kareem Hunt, for example, too, that's where the problems. Odell, when he was with us, the problems occur. And I did read, I swear I read that Hopkins will not get as much as OBJ got signed, which I was amazed at that because I thought that Hopkins should get more than OBJ in my eyes. I don't know why you would pay OBJ more, but I was shocked that he's not going to get that contract better than OBJ would. They both have had problems in the past few years, but I still think Hopkins is more
I don't
reliable.
think Hopkins is going to sell as many jerseys. That's literally the only difference.
Marketing
I think
wise,
Odell puts people in seats.
Yep.
Hopkins has no off-field marketing. I can't remember the last time that DeAndre Hopkins was in an ad for something.
And he was 2-3 years ago, he was the best receiver in the league. Realistically, you look at it, he was.
But I don't. At a position where most of the players happen to be big marketing guys, receivers are big. T.O. was huge. Ojo Cinco was huge.
Yeah.
OBJ is big.
OBJ is, but they have big personalities too. Yeah, those guys.
They're divas. They're divas.
Quiet.
Yeah, exactly.
So's Amari Cooper, but that's probably why they're in Cleveland.
They get overlooked.
They're not big marketing guys. They're not going to go to some major city and be make millions on product placement because that's just not what they do.
Oh, well, and I have an interesting point before we change. I don't know if you're saying on football, but I over the last few weeks, I've spoken to a few Cowboys fans that I've ran into at work, just people that I see.
It's a bad
and I've asked them. I say Dak Prescott, what do you think? Is he the answer? I probably talked about 5 people just randomly throughout. It's probably the last month, I'd say. Not one person said they think Prescott's the answer. Every single person that I talked to that is a Cowboys fan that I've met all think that Prescott's not the answer. And then I say, well, what would you want to do? Do you think you're going to get a better quarterback if you got rid of him? What's the upgrade? You're getting rid of him. It's the Derek Carr situation with the Raiders, right? You get rid of Derek Carr, we have, we get somebody better. Is Jimmy G really better? Is he going to be the answer? Is he going to have better results than Carr? Has he had a full season where he's actually played the whole year? No. So that's the thing. We want to get rid of Carr. We want to get rid of Dak. But what is the better option? Waiting, right? Somebody said they wanted to draft Anthony Richardson. If that's what they wanted, they want to trade up to get Richardson instead of having Dak, trade away Dak. I was like, well, who says he's going to be better than, Dak would be for that team? So I just want to say the Cowboys fans do not think that Prescott is the answer in their eyes at all.
I'm a Giants fan, and I hope they stick with Dak because I don't think he's their answer either, but I hope they keep him forever. That'd be great. But in reality, this was the year, if they were going to move on from Dak, to do it. How many quarterbacks were available? Veteran quarterbacks, not drafting and nurturing talent, that kind of thing. How many veteran quarterbacks were available at the as soon as this offseason? How many were available? They could have had Derek Carr. Derek Carr would have fit the Cowboy system, and they probably keep. I don't know what they do with Zeke. The problem with that is that Dak and Zeke can't be in an offense together. So Zeke was like, I'm not going to get the ball if Dak's here. If they had Derek Carr, Josh Jacobs was very successful with that, with Derek Carr. Why? Because Derek Carr knows how to spread the ball around, and he's not an athletic threat by himself. I think with Pollard, he would have been good. Their receiving core, he can get the ball where it needs to go, and lets playmakers be playmakers. Devontae Adams is really successful with him, not because he's a superstar, right? I think that would have been a good move for the Cowboys if they had traded Dak. They actually probably would have gotten Carr and some for Dak.
Yeah, it wouldn't. Yeah. What's the age of them? Are they similar? I think because probably
I think
Prescott
Dak's
is
younger.
Where's Prescott's age?
It's close, but I think Dak's younger.
I was gonna say because they came. Not that neither one of them are like 29 is Dak, and he was drafted in 2016, fourth round pick, and then Derek Carr was.
He's 20. He was 20. He's 20. A lot.
He is 32.
Yeah, it's like 20.
Drafted in 2014, second round pick.
So he's a little
crazy.
Older.
I think that the Browns that draft I feel like talked about maybe getting him.
Did. Yep.
And I can't believe that was 24. That was 10 years ago almost. That's man, that is hard to
We're
believe.
talking about Josh Gordon days.
and who is Derek Carr? If you had to talk about like Derek Carr, he's kind of in that Kirk Cousins level of like they're good, they put up good numbers, and they're just kind of like the epitome of like aw shucks as a human being. Yeah. Like they're not exciting. They don't really do much, but they put up decent enough numbers, don't cause any headaches, and teams win with them.
Yeah. Did you know who we drafted that year was Johnny Manziel in that draft?
Yeah, they were the same class.
Yes, and it was Justin Gilbert as the 8th pick in that draft too. Just like
Josh Allen was in the same draft as Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, an interesting fact. I don't know if you guys remember this, but Vince Young was signed by the Browns that year.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, he was signed. So Vince Young was a signing by us. I think it was just for like the preseason type thing. Yeah, Vince Young, he was a Brown.
So the year that franchise quarterbacks get drafted, the Browns select.
We cut Brandon Weeden that year.
Oh, undersized or mobile quarterbacks.
Well, Drew, in case you got me feeling bad about the Browns. So let's move on to something better. The Ohio State University. Now, this first topic has a little bit to include with it, but not really. It's about Urban Meyer. There's a special coming out on Netflix about his Gator time and everything that's going to go on about it.
Aaron Hernandez. Yep.
Aaron Hernandez, and
we all saw the greatest documentary ever.
It's going to be. Miami Hurricanes, when it was Catholics versus convicts back in the day, they didn't have murderers like the Florida Gators.
We had Tim Tebow.
He's the part of it that I'm most interested about. Like, they already did the 30 for 30 on the U, which was like all the guys that were like stealing radios like after practice. Like they were just out there doing whatever they wanted. This Hurricanes team had murderers, people who have done like serious felonies and done serious time, all led by Tim Tebow.
Well, yeah, in this Urban Meyer, like a few years ago, isn't that big of a name? He's a big college coach, but after the whole thing with the Jaguars, that makes it even bigger, because we didn't know all the stuff he did. Like that wasn't a thing before he went to the Jags. Like if this would have came out, it's still a big deal. But with Urban Meyer and all that stuff, what was he doing back then? What that we didn't know about. Because he was the king of the world in Florida. Yeah. It's like in Ohio State, and he had more power. So they're like the president.
The greatest documentary. It's going to be so good. Like if they do it right, it's going to be the best sports documentary in a while.
Well, The Last Dance was
Urban Meyer after this, and I don't think I think the answer is still the same, regardless of whether this documentary comes out or not. Which obviously it is coming out. Will he ever coach again at any level, Urban Meyer?
Do you think I don't know, small school? If he was
never say never.
Because Jim Tressel, he coached after, didn't he?
No, he became president of Youngstown State, and
he was a school administrator. He didn't coach.
Yeah,
he was president of Youngstown. He never became a coach again after Ohio State. It's so funny because the tattoo scandal is nothing compared to what went on in Florida.
So many things. In the grand scheme of things, what Tressel did was nothing compared to a lot of the scandals that were big.
Especially with the NIL money and everything. That's nothing.
And that's the thing. Like, I'm a big Syracuse fan, right? Like Jim Boeheim had to vacate 100 games for NIL stuff that's allowed now.
Exactly.
Like, give the guy his wins back.
That's true.
It's
interesting.
Like some of this stuff, like this shows you how far behind the NCAA has been. Like, go look. Like Reggie Bush would have never lost his Heisman.
Yeah, USC.
Like all of these things. Like Jim Tressel, I don't think he ever gets in trouble.
No.
In today's
it changes the history of Ohio State. Yep. Where would Ohio State be if that didn't happen? Because we had Luke Fickell was after, I think,
6 and 7 Luke Fickell 1 year.
Yeah, and look at him now. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So
would you take him over Ryan Day now? I mean, that's the.
They probably never take that step down.
No, because it was so unusual seeing Ohio State teams suck.
Yeah.
I don't. The only thing is, Urban Meyer did get the 2014 national championship, and one thing I think Urban would get, better players than Jim Tressel would have gotten. So I can't take a national championship away. But I did love Senator.
With the sweater vest, you didn't.
I did like him. He was very classy. Very.
Yeah.
You don't have a sweater vest, Ed? You don't.
I do not have a sweater vest. Casey. Maybe by next show I'll get one.
I was gonna say I'll get you one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you see before we get off here though that Barry Bonds is getting a documentary with the same producers of The Last Dance?
No.
I'm also super excited about that one.
Wow. Yes, they are going to do the same exact producer. HBO is going to put a Barry Bonds documentary, and then that raised the question. I was listening on the radio about it. If you could choose to have The Last Dance type, like production, what player would you think would be as good or close to as good as the Jordan one was? That would be as entertaining. If you had to focus on one player per se.
Oh, that's tough.
Oh, wow.
That's really tough.
Because I was thinking Bo Jackson or Deion Sanders just because of the baseball football aspect of it, you know, and Deion's got the personality.
There are a couple 30 for 30s that are interesting. There was the one
the Boys of Summer was
Michael
was
Vick
as well.
interesting. Yeah. Oh, that's tough.
You mean LeBron James?
Honestly, though, it would. I think like Jordan's was interesting because he was so good, right? Like,
and it covered multiple areas too.
Yeah, it covered like the gambling. It covered his dad. It covered Rodman. It covered like a whole bunch of that stuff.
The Bad Boys too for the Pistons. It touched on. It wasn't just Jordan. It was kind of stories around it as well.
I think you'd see. I think like a Cleveland athlete that would be interesting would actually be Josh Gordon, because like what happened? Right? I mean, like, I think there's so many football fans that want to know.
So many Browns in general.
Happened?
There's so many players you could say,
But so many NFL fans, like Josh Gordon had one of the greatest receiving seasons ever, and not just in Cleveland, ever.
Just Justin Blackmon's the same way in Jacksonville. He was huge that 1 or 2 years, and he just fell off the face of the planet. And then, someone you may have forgot about, Ed. I forgot about him. Antonio Callaway. I saw just got arrested. I totally forgot about Antonio Callaway. Was a Browns player. We drafted. I totally forgot about him.
Hugh Jackson made him play a whole entire preseason game because he was in the doghouse and he was getting gassed and everything. And he was like, just keep going out there just because that was his punishment, having to play preseason. I thought he was the real deal, Callaway. I thought it was a steal when the Browns got him.
Yeah, so did I. I forgot about him completely until I saw that because he's the Cowboys, I think. Oh, wow. Didn't he go to the Cowboys after us?
He was there for like a year, right?
Yeah, like I said, I saw that he just got arrested.
So Casey, who's your athlete for the documentary?
Peyton Vince in the softball league. Oh,
Peyton Vince.
I gotta think.
I'm gonna go Kyrie. I'm gonna go Kyrie Irving.
That would be cool too.
The thing it's tough about it would be, it's not even possible because the photography and the videos they had of Jordan, all that was back then. They don't have, that now per se. I know Brady was doing something similar, but I personally don't give a shit about Brady. I wouldn't watch it if it was about Brady. I really don't care.
I kind of
about Brady.
I get the Brady story.
I don't really care. So like the cool thing about, because I'm the youngest one of all three of us here, was I wasn't alive when Jordan played. Like, you know what I mean? I was born in '98. I don't remember anything.
Oh, that was my childhood was.
Yeah. I was alive when I was 9 years old when he hit the shot over Elo and it broke my heart.
Correct. So for me, it wasn't. I didn't know any of it. So the cool thing was during COVID was my dad, watched Jordan, everything, big Cavs fan. It killed us so many times. So being able to watch it with him and being able to he would give more information on what was going on. That was neat because it was something I never got to see as a child.
Good for you. You're lucky.
That's cool.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that was the nice thing about that. So I can't even think, like I said, of something that would be as compelling. I don't think anything would be as compelling as the Jordan and the Last Dance per se,
For basketball, I would want to see one on Larry Bird, and I don't want like the Larry Bird have 17 people tell about the trash talk thing. But he had a major scholarship to a big university and could not handle being at a big university, and that's why he ended up at
Indiana State.
Indiana State, and he was going to go to Indiana. and play with Bobby Knight. And then he was like, I don't want to be at a big school. And then he ends up in the NCAA finals. And then he becomes this like ridiculous smack talking, nonstop winning guy who then is like he basically said, I don't want any white people to play defense on me because that's disrespectful to me. Like, I think that kind of stuff would be interesting to watch because he's very open about it now, but he hated the media. He didn't do endorsement deals, but he was the biggest name in sport. Like, him and Magic made basketball popular.
It's that time frame. I think, and even if it wasn't alive then, I think that time frame team, even because I watched 30 for 30 for the Pistons a few times.
Yeah.
That one's great. And I think you can go in more in the depth with the Pistons. Like you could that entire run they had.
Rodman.
I think that would be that's what I'm saying. And then you've got Lambeer. Like you can go so in Isaiah Thomas, the heat he had with Jordan and everything.
Yep.
I would say the same with the Showtime Lakers. Like that would be an interesting one
80s,
too. Just because
80s basketball was awesome.
That's what I mean. I think that
brutal.
any 80s dynasty, you could say, I think that would be, but it's can't go back in time and record all that stuff, obviously, and get the details that we did. But, and also the one negative of Last Dance.
Lakers, Celtics.
Exactly. It was told just from it was somewhat of a biased Jordan perspective, a little bit.
Don't talk to Scottie Pippen about it. He's not happy about it.
That's what I'm saying.
He hates it.
Correct. That's why I wish that there was somehow that they could get everyone's opinion, like everyone in there, and then it was like the true story of everything that happened, not just Ed telling the story of Ed's life, not stuff like that.
I think it's much like building the dream team. Jordan had a lot of say in who was and was not allowed to be interviewed for his documentary.
Yes,
because nobody was going to watch it if it wasn't focused on him.
It's like Isaiah Thomas said, I met the criteria, but I wasn't selected. It was like that thing.
It's funny because Chuck Daly was the head coach, his coach for the Pistons.
Correct. Yeah. Exactly. Yes. It was just such an interesting situation. But I think one player, it's
tough.
Like LeBron, I don't even know if I would be
Bartolo Colon.
Yeah.
His story is actually really cool.
It is. Well, I would be remiss if I don't do this. We got to wrap up the show, but I want to do this. Yep. Let's mention something about the WWE. My son got me into it. I'm a big Roman Reigns fan now. I know people are getting sick of him, but we the ones. I am actually part of the bloodline. I told this to Riggs last time. He's part of it too. So there's a little something there.
Did you watch SmackDown on Friday?
I have no idea what you guys are talking about.
I did watch it. My one take for WWE is, I hope Roman keeps the belt as long as he wants it because
so Drew, Roman Reigns has had the belt for over 1,000 days.
Yes.
That is think about someone having that's a long time, Yeah. So but the question I have for Ed then is who do you want him to lose it to? When he loses it, who do you want?
I'm going to answer it the easiest way possible. Anybody but Cody Rhodes. I think he's a fraud. I think that he tries to be, I'm glad he didn't win at WrestleMania because here's the reason why. He tries to be dynamic. He tries to be like The Rock. He tries to be like Austin. And then he opens his mouth and he just falls flat every time. So I think Seth freaking Rollins should probably, if you're going to give it be a universal champion, let him be. I know he's a heavyweight champion now, which I don't even know. They keep making up belts and more belts and more belts. I don't know what's going on there. So I think he's the most dynamic and he has the best. I think that's pretty cool what he does. So
that's Drew's walk-up song at softball. He does that.
Yeah, that's it. Nice. Yep. Because I'm such a big Roman Reigns fan. I'm a diehard.
Yep. And then we got to end it.
I don't know what all those words you were saying, Ed, mean, but yeah, me too.
Okay, fair enough. We got to end it in Peyton Vince fashion. Good luck. Hope you had a great night on assignment. But random former Cleveland Guardian / Indian, KC, lead off.
Ronnie Belliard. Ronnie Belliard's what I'm going with. Jamie Carroll, and Ronnie Belliard are the two that I'm going to go with. Infield dynamic duo, I'd say.
So I'll be honest, I did not prepare for this question whatsoever.
I prepared for it throughout when we're talking. I just think of names when if I had.
My problem is I'm not from here, so I didn't grow up bumping in. So I'm just going to name, the guy I already named, and that's Bartolo Colon.
Bartolo Colon, that'll work. And I'm gonna roll with one of my first Indians game was 1989, April 23rd. It was Bag Day. Played the New York Yankees, lost 5-0. Starting pitcher was the manager of the Red Sox, but John Farrell, the lefty. I'm gonna go
okay. I actually know who that is.
So,
Yeah, I know who he is because he's the coach. Yeah, Aaron Boone. How about Aaron Boone? Aaron Boone was on the
Aaron Boone hit one of the greatest home runs in Yankee history.
That is correct.
Yeah, he played for Cleveland for a year.
Record for most ejections by a manager.
Wow. Yeah, he's a nut job. I was surprised that he gets ejected as much as he does.
He's the Brett Gardner of managers.
Jeez.
Yeah.
And with that, I want to thank you, Casey. I want to thank you, Drew. This was my maiden voyage ever hosting a podcast and using
who?
And I'm not gonna lie, I don't know, you guys haven't been watching, but I've been watching on Twitter. We've had the most viewers we've ever had during the show. We've had about 12 to 15 viewers this entire time. We normally have 0 to 1. So
you're welcome.
And we also have 3,000 views total, which is not what we usually have going like during this either. So this is the most views and watchers we've had this whole entire time. We've done the stuff.
Fire.
Casey, they see your guns. They see what Titan Nutrition is doing.
Yeah. It's all Casey. They just came. I bet it's 90% female viewers.
This is my 3 week return. I haven't been on in a while, so
catch Drew and his OnlyFans later tonight.
Yep, OnlyFans. Yep,
OnlyFans of softball. Yeah.
But I want to thank you. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to We Like Sports Podcast. Thanks for everything, and catch us again next week.
Ed did a great job today. Thank you, Ed.
Thanks, Ed.
Thank you.